And welcome back to coverage here from Grand Prix Providence. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen, and this is team sealed here. 3-on-3, Brian Demars, Michael Jacob, Dan Clark fighting against Max Brown, Dan Jordan, and Ben Friedman. In this particular match, we're going to be seeing MJ on the left-hand side of your screen. It's going to be battling Dan Jordan. We don't know what their decks are yet. This is sealed. We haven't seen these teams on camera. They've both picked up one loss so far, so still a very strong opening performance from both of them, but they're both very much looking to avoid picking up the second loss. I see green and red cards on the side of Michael Jacob, and it looks like we're off to the races here. Dan Jordan is going to lead off with a Rakdos Guildgate. That's a clue to what's going on, but it doesn't necessarily tell us that much. A Gruul Guildgate for Michael Jacob, and there's a white land of plains for Dan Jordan. This could be Borzov. It could be a bunch of different things. Leaning towards Borzov, whatever, yeah. Basically those two colors, given that he just played an aggressive 2-drop. There's another one, though, on the other side with a Drudge Beetle. And
yeah, Drudge Beetle's a card you also, you're pretty happy to trade that card.
Yeah, but he didn't take the trade, which is interesting.
Well, I think he believes his deck is more aggressive. He also has a mugging in his hand that he wants to get value out of.
Okay. And he's going to start off by just attacking for 2 with his Drudge Beetle. Yeah. And it looks like he's got a 3-drop lined up. Is it a Stonefair Crocodile? It is. So he's got a pretty aggressive curve here with a 2-drop into a 3-drop, and that's a nice start.
Ooh, that mugging very strong now.
Wow, that mugging. Yeah, when you take a 4-drop down with a mugging, that's really nice.
It's really, really good.
Looks like Dan Jordan has put the brakes on. He's realized that he is not the aggressor here in this game, did not offer the trade with the Boros Mastiff and the Stonefair Crocodile, so he's left both of his creatures back to block. There's an explosive impact there in hand.
Also a Pursuit of Flight.
Indeed.
Which is pretty good right now.
Yeah, Pursuit of Flight can force a bad block here, a 2-for-2, but really the mugging can just take out the Enforcer. But it doesn't. He's just going to attack with both.
I like that play. I mean, if he gets the double block, he's pretty happy about it.
Is he?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, it's just a 2-for-2, right? It's not like a... it doesn't get him ahead.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Though, I guess the chances that Dan actually double blocks are pretty low, given that Michael Jacob did leave back a green or red mana.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's Robot
Maka
or Giant Growth.
Yeah, that can blow him out there, so he decided not to go for it. In this case, it would have been, I think, a Wasteland Viper is what Michael actually had. Post-combat mugging takes down the Enforcer. And a Dutiful Throw is the follow-up play. Michael Jacob's going to attack and make Dan Jordan use up that 1 mana to regenerate his Dutiful Throw. And he's going to follow up with an Armored Transport. So not a particularly impressive follow-up here, but at least he's developing his board still, stuck on only 3 mana. As we see, Dan Jordan's got 5. If Dan can start deploying some big threats or just really 5-drops here, should be able to stabilize this board pretty quickly. We haven't seen the ability to activate that Pursuit of Flight from Michael Jacob yet.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's playing blue. It might just be a 3-2 in his deck.
That's right. Yeah. +2/+2.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be, a +2/+2.
I'm with you.
I don't think he's playing black either, so.
Okay.
That's just the 3-2.
A 3-2 with pants.
Well, looks like Dan Jordan is in no trouble at all here. I believe he has War Leader's Helix.
He does.
And Augur Spray in his hand.
Oh my goodness. So he's got 2 different ways that he can 2-for-1 his opponent here, but he has no pressure, so he's content to just pass the turn back. There's a Forest off the top for Michael Jacob.
Players in standard winner box number 15. Your event is ready.
Block. Regenerate. And he says you're going to take 2? Okay, sure, I'll take 2.
Standard winner box number 15.
All right. Does Michael Jacob have a significant follow-up play here? We know he's hit that 4th land. So he's still got that Wasteland Viper. And I think we're going to see a Cobble Brute here from Michael. There it is. So is Dan Jordan going to go for the 1-2 punch of taking out the Cobble Brute on end step and then untapping and being able to kill the Stonefair Crocodile, or just leaving up the instant speed removal trick?
I don't know, it's a good question. Like there are a lot of different plays he has. Michael really just wants to get Dan into range of the explosive impact, and it's pretty tough here.
Yeah.
So he does go ahead and War Leader.
That actually takes that whole explosive impact line pretty much off the table, as Dan's going to jump back up to 15 life here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we hear Michael Jacobs say, "You killed the Cobble Brute instead of the Stonefair Crocodile? You must be crazy." And I think that he might learn the reasoning shortly here. It looks like he's going to toil himself here. Draw a couple of cards. Wow, more removals. Tristani's Judgment. He's even hitting a land drop. And he's content to pass it back. It's a little bit dangerous, but right now the Dutiful Thrall is really keeping that thing at bay. Block, regenerate immediately. Drops him back down to 11. Street Spasm, I think, in hand there for Michael Jacob. Not going to do a whole lot here, though. He's got, Dan Jordan has 2 black mana that he can use to regenerate that Thrall at will. Michael could set up for a turn, though, where he goes to kill the Thrall, taps it down, and then tries to get in for a lethal hit of damage. Remember, right now, like, if he end step takes out that Thrall, taps it, attacks in there, he attacks in for 7, and that's enough to make the explosive impact lethal in his hand if he can hit the mana over the next few turns to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Reasonable line of play, but Dan Jordan, we know, has multiple ways to foil that line of play. Now, and speaking of foiling that line of play, it is going to become very exposed at this point. This Copa Confessor is going to come down. Let's see how much Dan Jordan's going to pay for life total here. The assumption is that he would pay the full 3 here. Michael Jacobs going to ask the judge a question.
Players in booster draft number 31.
Yeah, so I believe he's probably...
When he chooses the amount of life, there is no way for me to respond to 50 amount of life. I don't think so.
Right.
I think it's for probably choosing the amount of life.
Before I finalize my answer, let me take a little bit of read on it.
I figured that's what you were going to ask. Probably choosing the amount of life. It's when it's like, you know.
All right, so what they're trying to do, is figure out at what point he chooses the amount of life that he's going to pay.
Yes, they're trying to figure out if, like, you know, if you Cabal Therapy and say, what are you naming, and then your opponent names a card, you can't counter it.
Right.
Because it obviously resolved if they were able to name a card.
That's right.
So here they're trying to decide, like, okay, well, if you choose how much life you're going to pay, do I have an opportunity to respond to that? Or do I need to do that before?
Yes, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. I believe you need to choose before.
When it enters the battlefield, pay any amount of life.
It's all one
so
card.
The
all
question
one
is that there's a trigger that goes on the stack when the spell resolves.
No. Yeah.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Rashad says you pick the amount of life when the trigger resolves.
Yeah, just like it's like Cabal Therapy. You name the card when the card resolves. So.
So he doesn't have to say how much life he's going to pay ahead of time. So Michael Jacob has no clue.
Yeah,
as
so
long as
Michael
that
Jacob
ability's on
says
the stack.
says how much life do you want to pay, then that's indicative of it resolving.
Okay. All right, and he did in fact decide to pay 3 life. The ability has resolved, and Dan Jordan's going to take a quick read of Street Spasm here.
Players in standard winner box number
He can take any of these cards, and you see him writing down the contents of Michael Jacobs' hand here. He hasn't selected a card quite yet.
I'm at 8, you're at 18, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if Dan untaps here, it's going to be pretty hard to win. There's an Augur Spree and a Tristani's Judgment and an Arrestor and a Maw.
Interesting draw for Michael Jacob. All right, here comes both creatures attacking. Block, block. There will be a regeneration shortly.
Those are my blocks. I have no effects.
Yeah, decoy, you know, it seems like it's so good here, probably from Michael's angle.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're looking at the game in the big picture, with that Augur Spree on the other side of the table, it's just really...
Yeah. All right, there's a decoy. And remember, he's also got the Wasteland Viper in hand as well.
Which combos quite nicely with a decoy.
He does, except for that Dan's probably going to have to use removal on the decoy before that point happens, right? He'll let Michael go and do attacks, and then he'll Augur Spree it. An extra land there for Dan Jordan. That's nice. It allows him to play a 6-drop like Tristani's Judgment if he wants. Still leave mana up to regenerate his Dutiful Throw.
Yep. He also now has the Extort on the Confessor.
Yep, good point. Interestingly, while it does feel like the momentum has swung firmly in Dan Jordan's favor here, even though he's a little bit behind on the board, you know, he still doesn't really have any pressure going. He needs to get a few things on the ground to start finishing the job here. He doesn't want to let Michael hang around for too long. Remember, Dan's at 8, and Michael does have explosive impact in hand. Dan knows it, so he's at a virtual 3. And you know, if Michael can find some way to get in a 3 extra damage, and Dan can't finish him off, then Michael can find a way to win this game here.
I'll go first.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Dan's playing this game really, really conservatively.
He is.
You know, he
like
could have
how he's
Augur
playing it,
Spreed. Yeah, he could have Augur Spreed that 5/4 Crocodile multiple times.
He could have. Now, the thing he's got to be careful of at this point, though, is a Blood Rush spell, right? He doesn't want to Augur Spree the Crocodile and you let it get Blood Rush, because then it gets huge.
Yeah, so I think he's just going to Arrestor the Crocodile and Extort.
That way he leaves Augur Spree plus Extort mana up as well.
I'm casting against an Extorting, I know that for sure. 9, 17.
So he's trying to figure out which one he wants to extort.
Sorry for this.
Sure. He's in jail.
Go ahead.
MJ said, sure, he's in jail. And he draws another land, so he is creeping up the scale here.
Yeah, getting to explosive impact range, a little bit at a time.
You're also looking for players for regular booster draft, as well as for a standard winner box. If you're interested in any of these events, come sign up at the side event stage.
There's the land for Michael Jacob. And he just says, go. He knows something's up. He doesn't want to trade his... he doesn't want to trade anything for that Arrestor. His decoy. Just to get in.
He doesn't even want to
damage.
trade in the Viper. I mean, the Viper would trade with the Arrestor and the Confessor, but then, I mean, he needs that decoy.
All right, he's finally going to pull the trigger now on this Augur Spree with an Extort as well. So it looks like he's just going to take out the big Crocodile here, as it is the biggest threat, and this is the time when he can avoid some subset of combat tricks like Blood Rush. All right, Dan Jordan looking to go on the offensive here potentially. He's going to double check that it's only when he's attacking.
Yeah. If that did that both ways, the card would be pretty insane.
For 3 colorless mana. Yeah, that one would be playable. Dan Jordan does decide to play a land from his hand here as well. And I think he's just going to judgment that decoy here, right?
Yep. Play this next door.
Oh, he's got Mav the
Obsidian.
Obsidot.
You go to 13.
And he's going to be
That's
able
a
to
very
play
good
that
card.
plus extort. Mav the Obsidot makes life very difficult for your opponent. That also bumps Dan up to 11 now, so he's staying.
It's also a very
carefully out of
confusing card.
range. It is. It's hard to play against.
Yeah, it's hard to play with and it's hard to play against.
It is.
I've had many opponents who have had that card and I've been like, there's no way I can win now. And then I win and I'm like, I don't understand what happened.
Yeah. All right. Attack for Michael Jacob. He's drawn a Gruul Guildgate for his turn. All right, everybody has to stand in front of the decoy. So now it's up to Michael Jacob to order the blockers.
Beautiful throw first. Just got the confessor second. While the outfit at third.
All right, and you guys could hear him there. He's
Yeah,
put him in order there.
Viper?
All right, so there is a regeneration for the dutiful throw. And he gave 1 to each.
Yep. I go to a 9.
And he just says go. So Dan Jordan
Death
drops
touch
down
isn't
to
that
9.
bad.
Check.
And that is quite a nice play, finding an opening there for the Golgari decoy plus the Wasteland Viper.
Okay.
Well, a disciple of the old ways on turn 12 isn't exactly what you want, but
here it's pretty good.
Something, yeah.
Nothing
It's gonna hold off
enough
that
toughness,
arrestor.
you know?
Again, Dan Jordan down to 9 here. He's got to be careful.
I mean, once you scavenge onto it, it's a, you know,
Yes,
it's a 4-power first striker.
it's true. Hey, there's your boy, Knight of Obligation.
I like that guy. I feel obligated to pick him very often.
Yes. And Michael Jacob actually does have enough mana here that he can scavenge the Golgari decoy and still have mana to give his guy first strike if he were to need that. It's going to be a 4/4 disciple. So first strike would be necessary for a profitable attack here. He's also, Michael Jacob can consider just explosive impacting the Knight of Obligation, right?
It's definitely a line.
I mean, right now,
It's gonna be pretty difficult for Michael to eke this one out with the judgment still in Dan Jordan's hand.
yes.
The light totals the way they are. Of course, like, he could always just draw bearer. You know, it's
Yeah, I'm at 9. You're at 11.
definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I think he has to scavenge this turn and not attack. I like that play. Okay.
Looks like he's going to get aggressive here. And he's going to scavenge his beetle. And Dan Jordan says, sure. He doesn't mind this so far. And then he says, go.
Yeah, all right. I like that play.
But this is playing right into Dan Jordan's plan as he still has that Tristani's Judgment in hand. And if Michael Jacob makes a big play and goes for the Golgari decoy scavenge as well on the same thing, can really eat a lot of resources with one card if you're Dan Jordan. Looks like Dan's just going to go for the extorted Tristani's Judgment right now, though.
You go to 10.
He's going to hop back up to
To 10?
10 here. And then, I mean, then he can start beating in with both of these guys.
And that's exactly what
Goes
happened.
to 6.
Ooh, see, this is exactly what we were talking about before. That's an annihilating fire off the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty
it was
strange,
that
but
close.
it was 1 point off.
Yeah. I mean, he's, you know, we've seen Dan Jordan extort a couple of times. If he hadn't, he would be dead.
Yeah.
All right, here comes the 5. And he just has to say go. That dutiful throw is pulling major work here.
Oh, yeah.
Just calmly holding off Michael Jacob's best creature, in this case his only creature.
Looks like everybody else is on to their second game at this point.
Yeah, quick update, Max Brown wins game 1 versus Brian Demars, and Dan Clark has beat Ben Friedman in their first game. This is still game 1, though, here from Providence. This is round number 7. Most of the teams that you're watching right now have 1 loss.
Yeah, Dan Jordan with an advantage on the board and 10 life against Michael Jacob with just an armor transport, 2+1 stone counters, and 6 life. But we know that Michael Jacob has 9 points of burn in his hand.
8.
Oh, 8, I'm sorry, yeah.
1 hit from that thing, and it can get in there. Let's see what he does here. It looks like he's considering taking out that Knight of Obligation or something. Yep, he does in fact do just that. Knight of Obligation down, and he passes a turn back. What is in Dan Jordan's hand? I see a swamp. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Tajik, Blade of the Legion. That guy is a complete beating here.
Oh, yeah.
He even has Battalion ready-made. All right, looks like an Ember Beast off the top for Michael Jacob. Maybe if we could bring Tajik up so people can get a look at what that card does. It's a 2/2 for 4. What could be possibly good about that?
It's indestructible.
Yeah, that's just the beginning of the rules text on Tajik. We're going to bring that one up on the screen.
Indestructible, just such a broken keyword in Limited.
It is nasty. You're like, oh, just, no. How about I, no. What if I, no, it's just nothing kills it.
Sorry.
Get a look at Tajik there. He's got Battalion +5/+5. So he is absolutely massive. He is a must block at this point as he bashes in there for 7. And he's indestructible. So Michael Jacob sitting at 6, facing down Dan Jordan at 10. We know that Michael has 1 burn spell left in his hand. And here comes the team. Dan Jordan's making his move. He points his finger at Tajik, indicating that he's acknowledging the trigger, and it looks like Michael Jacob is forced to chump block Tajik, and he does get to eat 1 card, though. All right, he has Dan Jordan tapped out here. Dan plays a land and says go, has no follow-up play. He could get Dan Jordan to 3 with this attack here. I think he's drawn a Riot Piker. Remember, Tajik does not and will not, very most likely will not have Battalion next turn. It's going to take some type of a haste creature, something along those lines. All right, here it comes. Armor Transport attacks for 4. That's going to drop Dan Jordan down to 4. Here comes a Riot Piker to jump in front of Tajik. All right, Max Brown takes down the first match there.
Ooh, nice. So we have a
2 games to 0 versus Brian Demars.
Yeah. It looks like Michael chooses not to play the Riot Piker. I mean, Tajik is indestructible and not lethal this turn because,
I don't know if you had anything, but like
unless of course Dan has a haste creature.
So why wouldn't he play it?
Because in his mind it's just going to get blocked by Tajik and eaten.
Okay.
And he thinks the game is going to go a little bit longer.
Vizkopa Guildmage with infinite mana. He's going to be able to activate Vizkopa Guildmage multiple times, and that could just be lethal. He can activate its abilities, its first ability once, and then its second ability twice this turn. This is where guild mages have become so important, because in these slower, longer games, having a mana sink like a guild mage is just incredible. Attack with both.
Yeah, these limited games all go
Tajik
one of 2
lifelink.
ways.
Yep, target creature gains lifelink. It's going to be Tajik, and he's going to activate the ability of Vizkopa Guildmage once, and he's going to do it again, and that's going to be lethal. Michael Jacob can only look at his hand. Annihilating Fire doesn't do anything against Tajik, and that's going to be it. He says, yep, we're going to go to a game 2 here.
Yeah, the Legion's got a pretty strong blade.
He does. Michael examines the next few draw steps, and it's 3 out of 4 lands there. a Zerta Druid and a Madcap skill, so not a lot coming for him there. He
The
was so
Pursuit of
close.
Flight is just very bad against Stan's deck.
It was pretty miserable.
Yeah.
He got 2 for 1 eventually, and even then,
And
it
even
didn't
before
do
him,
much
didn't do
anyway.
anything.
Yeah, just sat there and
Dutiful Thrall.
got blocked a bunch of times.
We probably expect those to come out for him.
On the first game, what kind of outs did you have to actually kill?
Now that being said, we did see a Madcap skill, so significantly different than Pursuit of Flight in this matchup. Still risky.
Still risky against a deck with that much removal, but
yeah.
I
But
mean,
you can punch through a ton of damage with it and make it worth it.
see Mike Jacob? I know they don't want to see Juicy Andrew.
Looks like there's a few creatures coming in. I saw Crossed Monitor and a Towering Indrik. Was it a Molten Primordial for that third card? I couldn't quite see.
I thought it was a Batterhorn.
Okay.
All
It
of
was
those
red.
are very good cards. Yeah, Batterhorn's red.
Batterhorn, right.
Batterhorn.
I thought you were talking about Battering Krasis.
Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah, Batterhorn. Okay.
The other batter.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Now I want cake batter. Look at this.
You need to eat your dinner first.
Yes.
Young man.
But I think we're probably going to expect to see Michael Jacob take out his enchant creatures. I mean, that game he just saw a flurry of removal. He saw Augur Spree. He saw, what's the other one? War Leader's Helix. He saw Tristani's Judgment. And, you know, Dan only drew a small portion of his deck, so we can only assume that Dan's deck is just rife with removal spells. And Michael really, really needs to take these enchant creatures out, because he's just going to get 2 for 1.
I mean, I think that just based on the cards we've seen from Dan Jordan, his deck is rife with removal.
Yeah.
Even if that's all his removal, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a lot. The other thing is that, you know, those enchant creatures are also pretty weak against cards like Dutiful Thrall and Tajik that are just indestructible.
Yep.
And you can just sit back and be like, oh, you made a giant creature? Okay, I'll just block it.
Yeah, you just want
I
more
don't
creatures in
mind.
that case, yep.
No.
You don't want to pile all your cards into one boat.
You know, the creature enhancement becomes much weaker when you're against a deck that has a lot of removal, or guys that regenerate, or guys that are indestructible,
Which we saw.
or guys that have arbitrarily large amounts of toughness.
Yeah. Also, remember, Michael Jacob is in green-red. How the heck does he deal with Tajik? I mean, if Dan Jordan just plays turn 4 Tajik, like, can Michael's deck deal with that in any way?
I mean, Michael really just needs to run him over and kill him before that card really matters.
Okay.
I mean, you can't. The red deck, it just can't interact with Tajik. Have you played Tajik yet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
me
few
too.
times. God,
It's
I love that
so
card.
good.
It's so awesome.
I've gotten like Burroughs Elite 2-drop, 3-drop Tajik. Oh my goodness. It really is just completely unfair.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I've also Angelic Edicted a
Tajik?
Tajik.
Oh, that's
so
going to feel good, too.
it's a nice one. It's funny that you're like happy to use a removal spell that costs more mana than the creature you're
Yeah.
removing.
All right, let's take a look at Michael Jacobs' opener. Oh, I think we might have moved on accident to a different one. Yeah, we should stay on the main one, I think, if you don't
All
mind.
right, well on
that
on
is
the
not a
off table.
standard there. Dan Clark with a Boros Reckoner. We can stay here if you want, Rusty. Okay.
it looks like that's game 3 going on, and turn 3 Burroughs Reckoner in game 3
and
for
we've got a
Dan
mulligan
Clark.
here for Michael Jacobs. So we're kind of zigging when they're zagging, it seems. Why don't we go to the game 3 on the other one and watch some actual
See what
Magic
Burroughs
gameplay
Reckoner is
here?
joined by. Is there a Fireman Avenger?
Hey,
No.
hey, how about I steal your Boros Reckoner with Soul Ransom? Does look, though, like Dan Clark has quite a few cards in hand, so he could just pitch 2 lands right here if he wanted and get his Boros Reckoner back and get right back on plan. Now, that would give Ben Friedman 2 more cards in hand, but it's probably worth it, right? You see, again, those are normally Judge hands that enter our screen, but these are Michael Jacobs' hands in this case, probably.
Yeah, I think he wants to discard 2 lands right now to get rid of the Soul Ransom, but I think his teammates are probably instructing him to instead Angelic Edict the Soul Ransom once he gets the turn back. Because remember, it exiles an enchantment also.
Uh-huh.
And
I like that play better.
Yeah, I mean, discarding
takes
the
a
2 lands like then you don't know if you're going to draw another land for a while when you kind of need one.
Yeah.
And your opponent also draws 2 cards.
Yes, which is really
So is
a
that
big
worth the
swing.
3 damage you're hitting them for?
Yes. I
Yes,
guess
it
it
is.
is. I'm surprised by that. But it does also leave Dan Clark in a great position. Any stabilizing creature that Ben Friedman plays, he can just edict that and keep the pressure going. I mean, this is 5 damage that's coming in this turn. And Boros Reckoner is a real handful anyway. And here's the Gatekeepers with an Extort and a Knight. You gotta love that.
That's just unreal. Dan had the good fortune of being able to draw a gate there, and now he's just running away with this game. So, I mean, it probably was right then to pitch 2 cards. If you're going to make that play when you untap.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly like Dan Clark's board position right now. He's facing down 0 relevant permanents on Ben Friedman's side, and he has Angelic Edict to kill almost anything.
Yeah, with the mana to cast it in play.
Yeah.
So
he's going to be hitting for 9, and he has a Boros Reckoner in play. This does not end well for your opponent. We're talking Supreme Verdict or bust pretty quickly if Ben Friedman's play is to try to stabilize with a creature.
Booster draft number 32. Your event is ready.
yeah, he really needs Supreme Verdict at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he has anything like that. So Merciless Eviction, I suppose.
Yeah.
Probably just one more turn to draw that.
Stay alive for a turn and then play Merciless Eviction, but he's going to need another land. And he's going to need Merciless Eviction, and I don't know if any of those are happening for him here. All right, well, there's a Key Rune. He's got 3 mana available. He just passed a turn?
He
All right,
did.
so he's got something. I think he has Protect and Serve. Which isn't going to do a whole lot here.
Players in the 2
I think he also had Deputy of Acquittals.
Your event is
Yes.
ready.
I did see that, and there it is. Deputy of Acquittals is going to come down, and he's going to trade for a Knight, but it still means he's taking 7 damage, dropping him down to 5 life and facing down a 2/1 flyer with Extort. This could put him down to 4 if there's a Extort paid for. All right, now down Clark, you see him hesitate there. He's got a Vizkopa Guildmage, but he doesn't want to overcommit to the board when he's this far ahead and then run into something. I mean, you know, seeing Ben Friedman play out that Orzhov Key Rune, you know, you could definitely think that he has a card like Merciless Eviction, like no more lands in hand. He wants to make sure that he can cast it next turn. You know, I think it's reasonable to play around it, but he decides, no, we're gonna get an Extort trigger, and then that's gonna drop Ben down to 4, and he has an overwhelming board state here. He basically says, Ben, you must have Merciless Eviction here, or I'm gonna win.
Even if I just draw some mountains.
Yeah, the second he draws a 6th land, he's going to have double activation on that Guildmage. And then
Oh, and it looks like the match
just
has
done.
actually officially ended, as Michael Jacob must have mulliganed into oblivion there. Dan Jordan has already won that game, and they're playing essentially for tiebreakers here, but we'll stick with them, and we'll watch it
Yeah,
for as long as
I'd
we
like to
can.
watch.
Yeah, I'd like to watch some Magic. Although it doesn't look like it's going to be going on
Yeah,
very long
I think
here.
this may be the last turn of the match.
Yeah, Assault Griffin. Ben Friedman did leave up some mana, but it shouldn't really matter. Is that life total correct? Is Ben at 5 or is he at 4? Yeah, there we go. He's at 4 now.
Grab a water.
Looks like he's going for the super kill here. He's got Gift of Orzhova,
Like I would keep this
and he's going to be able to pay an Extort on it, and it's going to make, like in this case, the Sunspire Gatekeepers is also going to be lethal, along with the Boros Reckoner, along with the combination of the Kingpin's Pet and the Vizkopa Guildmage. So he's just got tons of lethal damage here. Did he decide not to attack with the Guildmage there?
Yeah, I mean, probably the way he figures it, the only way he's really going to not kill his opponent this turn is if there's some sort of, fog effect like that.
But it's not. He would have killed him had he attacked with it, right?
Yeah, that's true. So, Ben Friedman
So
given
Ben
new
Friedman
life.
gets to draw a card, but he doesn't have anything, and scoops him up. So Max Brown, Dan Jordan, Ben Friedman, even though Ben lost that game, their team wins the match.